Oh.
Where you at, big dog?
We are live. Y'all watch your tongues. How about you, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Live call-in show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. Today is Sunday, June 30th, maybe? Is it 30th?
It is. It is the 30th.
In the morning. It is June the 30th. We're probably going to have a pretty damn good show. We've had some technical difficulties.
Yes.
In the last 30 minutes or so, power storm took out Mr. Allen Head's power, and my computer is not acting right, kind of like we saw a couple of weeks ago. I'm working on it. We'll figure that out. But we're still going to get to the phone line, 701-779-9585. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your questions, here to answer me and address them. Mr. Cole Pinkston, Mr. Allen Head, how about you?
How about you?
You?
Knock on wood, so far, I'm pretty good over here. Storm might be blowing in, but we got power. Internet's probably going to be a little, testy, but so far so good.
Good for you, man. It's been like Twister over here, brother. Like I'm 5 seconds away from being Bill Paxton out here trying to, find a belt buckle and latch myself onto a pipe somewhere to make sure my house doesn't blow away. So it's been one of those afternoons.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath.
There you go.
What the corner our message board should have been doing for the past week.
Can they say woosah?
Yeah, goose fraba.
Goose fraba.
What's that mean?
Oh, that's anger management.
Anger management from an Adam Sandler movie. It's their calm down word.
Right? Jack Nicklaus.
Yes, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Great, I gotta get out of my face, man. I gotta get I can't hear. I'm gonna get this computer running, dude. I promise you.
Jeffrey's gonna make somebody motion sick.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it set up, man. Hold on. Watch this. Hey, man. Man. Hey, it looks like I got a mic. It doesn't sound like it though, does it?
Not at all.
It sounds terrible.
Not terrible, just not like you have a mic.
Right on.
Yep. All
right, folks. Let's see.
We can carry some things if you want to try to get it going there.
We can jump to the phone lines if you want to get your computer up.
I wouldn't be doing anything. I tell you what. Let me just check back in. Let me see what I can do.
Gotcha.
Because I want to talk about that OTV. You know what I mean? All right. Give me 5 minutes.
Sounds good. All right, Zach.
Let's go to the phone lines. We know who's leading us off here. We got Kevin from Wilmer, Alabama. Kevin, you're live.
Kevin from Wilmer, Alabama.
What's up, Kevin?
What's up, Kevin? Jeffrey Lee is here. He's listening to you. He just can't talk back to you tonight. For now, anyway. He might pop in.
And I think the next commitment will be Juju Lewis.
Kevin, that wouldn't shock me. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think it's coming to a head for certain.
Yeah.
I like it, Kevin. I like it.
And I think the second commitment will be Caleb Cunningham.
Well, those two are kind of, if you get the quarterback, then Caleb Cunningham probably turns his attention right back on to Auburn, don't you think?
Yeah.
That's a good call. I like it.
Certainly becomes more attainable, that's for certain.
And I think Cam Coleman will have 31 touchdowns now.
It's inching a little higher and higher there, Kevin.
Yeah. Confidence is getting better as we get closer. Good stuff, Kevin.
And Bryce Kane will have 12 touchdowns.
All right.
Okay. Any last predictions, Kevin?
We would go 12-0.
I like you, Kevin.
Good deal.
I know the corner needs that right now. An undefeated season would definitely soothe the corner a little bit. But Kevin, Always appreciate you, man.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, there's
We just-
Wanda.
Wanda off.
Mhm.
Call back
Uh-oh.
in, Kevin. Call back in, Kevin. We're gonna shift here. 5013. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Hey, guys. Don from Birmingham.
What's up, Don?
How's everybody doing tonight, guys? War Eagle to everybody.
Yes, sir. Doing good. I think we all needed the weekend to just kind of decompress a little bit from the week. And the corner looks like it calmed down a little bit. Wouldn't you say,
I think
Don?
so.
No, guys, not really. I tell you what, anytime I do a post on the corner, sometimes they just kill me.
Hey, me too, Don. Happens to me a lot, man. I get killed.
I
get
know,
killed there a
Cole.
lot,
I mean, anytime you do an article, man, everything they go nuts on you, don't they?
Yeah, but that's just how it is. It's a love, sometimes get angry and love relationship. That's how it is.
No, that's right. But I don't know if you read my last one today. I did, but I did. I looked up the rookie salary in the NFL, and if you pay attention to it, the 24 minimum salary for a rookie is $769,000, and now Juju's dad wants $1.5 million. So it's just getting this NIL is just getting ridiculous.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have that. Go ahead, Cole.
I don't know the numbers. I never do. That's kept under wraps for us. There's speculation always thrown around about the numbers. It's hard to really know what it is. They keep it between them. It's obvious, though, that Colorado, USC, Auburn, and Indiana, to some extent, are all willing to be in the NIL game and hang around in this recruitment because he hasn't made a decision. I think if there was one offer out there that was just crazy, I think it would be over.
Yeah, no, I'd second that, Cole.
Yeah, go ahead, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was it. Don. You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. One quick question. I'll go to the next caller. On the tight ends, I think they're Edwards and Davidson both are committing. Are they committing on the same day, guys?
Is Edwards 4th of July, or he's the second? I think Edwards is the second.
Yeah. That's it. Davidson's tomorrow, right? I mean Tuesday.
He should be the 4th.
Is that right?
Which is that Wednesday?
Yeah, no, that's Thursday. The third is Wednesday. Yeah,
okay.
I was going to say I think it's the 4th for Davidson.
Yep, that's correct.
Well, guys, of the two, Edwards is a better prospect, correct?
I think so. I like Hollis Davidson a lot. They're similar. They're similar type tight ends. They're receiving tight ends. I wouldn't call Hollis Davidson a hand on the ground, traditional attached tight end all the time. I think he's a guy that's going to flex out. Caleb Edwards is definitely that guy, but maybe he's a little bit more of both. I think Caleb Edwards, you can put him down. He's going to get bigger. But man, Hollis is big too. I mean, he's up there with Ryan G. He's going to fill out and be 240 plus at 6'5". So
okay. Well, if y'all had to make a guess, who do you think we're going to get? Davidson?
Yeah, I don't think Auburn's going to land Edwards. Not feeling great about that. They definitely love him, but I think he's trending elsewhere. Davidson looks pretty good right now for Auburn, and we talked about this when he was when Davidson was at the 707 camp. He came back and he was his first trip back since decommitting from Auburn, and he was like, "Wow." I mean, they welcomed him back with open arms. I think it surprised him. I think it surprised his parents.
Okay.
I think his parents really, really dug that.
And I think Ben Aguilmau played that one perfectly. Like it, you know what I mean? It's not easy for a kid to decommit and then for you to still be able to be receptive and a constant presence in a recruitment. And I think Ben handled that one about textbook as far as that's concerned. And it really, as you said, Cole, between the way he handled it and the rest of the staff, how they welcomed his family back, I think
right.
It teed it up right. And so it's an Auburn, Florida State battle, but I think everybody on the panel feels good about Auburn's chances right now with him.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fellas, thank y'all so much. As always, love the show and really enjoy y'all's work, guys. Thanks a lot. Y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
5006. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Johnny from Birmingham.
Johnny.
What's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Are you a first time caller, Johnny?
Yes.
All right. What you got for us tonight?
I just want to know why we got so many big commitments and who we're going to get next.
Okay. Alan, what do you think, man?
Sure. So realistically, as far as decommitments are concerned, I think they're two very different situations. Carday Smith is a young man that just was looking at other opportunities. Some of them, I would say, incentive laden in other places. And Auburn was not in a position they felt very comfortable with his recruitment. I think they think he's a good player, but they weren't necessarily ready to, I guess, knock down his door, to use Cole's word, to keep him in the class. And so the other young man, really talented linebacker out of the state of Mississippi, but, his brother plays at Mississippi State. There's a lot of local pressure, I think, for him to stay in state. And so it just became a really difficult situation to keep him in the class. And so he's decided to decommit. We'll see what happens moving forward in his recruitment. And you have to probably like Mississippi State's chances. And if you're an Auburn fan, I think you have to take that in stride somewhat, because you just benefited from a similar situation with Alvin Henderson and his recruitment with Penn State, right? I don't think that the Auburn coaching staff were putting a ton of pressure on him per se, but a kid picking an out-of-state school, it was kind of a rush situation, sat back, thought about it, and decided, what, Auburn's really wanted to be, and maybe that's a similar situation with this young man.
Johnny still with us?
No, but the next question was who would be next to commit in y'all's opinion.
Let me touch on that too, Alan. On Carday Smith, we reported on the board after it happened that thought it was a mutual parting of ways. That's what we're hearing. Sounds like he went to his USC visit. They recruited him. They made their offer. They did what they had to do, and maybe trending there right now. But the bottom line was, were the NIL offers the same? Probably not. We always tiptoe around that, and these days it's like, whatever. That's
might as well talk about it, right?
That's what it is. Okay,
it's part of the story.
At the end of the day, the question is, who values these guys the most? So a lot of times when you're looking at recruitments, let's say Jared Smith, for example. Jared Smith, South Carolina, Ole Miss, that really seems like your biggest competition at the moment. But how much is South Carolina willing to put in for Jared Smith as compared to Auburn? If you think that Auburn can easily beat South Carolina just because of the way the programs are right now, the way recruiting is, there's always one guy that they may value and say, we aren't going to lose him. Every
Correct.
time that you make an offer, we make an offer. And we're going to keep going because he's our top guy. I don't know for sure if that's the case with Jared Smith. I'm just using him as an example. So that's going to happen. And if Auburn was able to keep Carday Smith for what it was and not have to compete with NIL offers elsewhere, I think he'd still be in the class. But as NIL offers grew, they said, all right, I think we're okay.
No, yeah. So we like him, but at a price, right? And you have to think of it from an NFL standpoint. This is what happens in negotiations all the time as it pertains to NFL contracts. We love a guy at a price, but at some point that price exceeds the actual value that you see in that prospect. And so you have to be responsible and make sure that you're managing your assets as you need to, because obviously you can utilize those assets in other places if you're not going to be putting them into that player. And with someone like Andrew Babalola, maybe that's just a little bit more of a resource that you can put towards him now, and or some other prospect on your board.
Yeah. And then on Tyler Lockhart, if you are a member of the Corner, on June 1st, during one of our recruiting threads, I wrote in there, I was up at the complex. The feeling I got was that, hey, Tyler Lockhart's going to be hard to hold on to.
Right.
He's going to have some pressure from both of the in-state schools, not just Mississippi State. But think of it like J.J. Falk, who's committed to Auburn right now. His older brother's on the team. A lot of schools have made progress with him, but can they really – at the end of the day, can they flip him Sure, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for other schools to flip him. Same way with Tyler Lockhart. He was committed to Auburn. Obviously Auburn did a pretty good job recruiting him, getting him in the boat with the circumstances. But holding on to him is a different ball game there. You got the family there at Mississippi State. So that kind of stuff's going to happen, especially at this point of the season. We got whatever many months, 5-6 months left of this. And guys you've never heard of are probably going to be popping up as targets, and guys that you thought were way up here on the board and might be committed might be a little bit lower, and we'll see what happens. And that kind of stuff's going to happen. And at one time I was like, I don't really want to talk about it, but it is a business and that's how we got to do it. Right.
No, I think that's very fair, Cole. And so I'm always a little bit cautious because, people are sensitive to it somewhat. But again, at the end of the day, NIL is part of the story, or what we're calling NIL. This is really pay for play. It's not NIL. Let me say that again for like the 18,000th time.
You're right.
But player compensation, I think that's a fairer way to put it.
Sure.
And so, you know what I mean? It is what it is, right? But with Tyler Lockhart, I don't think that was as big a piece. I think it is more the in-state school. It is his brother. It is the pressure to stay in state. I think that was the bigger factor in that situation, which is very different from Carday's deal. And again, as an Auburn fan, you have to know this is coming, right? We've benefited from this. Think about Keldrick Falk being committed to Florida State and Auburn flipping him several years ago. Same thing with Alvin Henderson. And you'll see that. I mean, if you land Jared Smith, look, South Carolina's put about as much effort as you possibly can into recruiting a prospect. And if Auburn's able to nab him because they amp things up, you have to think that being the in-state school gave them an added edge in that recruitment.
Right. As far as who could be next to commit, Johnny, you've got a couple of commitment dates set in Hollis Davidson, tight end, who was formerly committed to Auburn. He opened his recruitment. He took official visits to Florida State, Florida, Georgia.
Auburn. He did not take one to Georgia.
No,
he
Georgia.
came to Auburn that weekend instead.
Okay, Georgia was involved. We weren't sure how much. They had an official visit in the works, but apparently that didn't take place. So it is down to Florida State and Auburn. We think, Jeffrey put in an RPM pick today. We think Auburn is trending in the right direction there to get him back in the class. You've got Jacoby Ward, who is going to make an announcement on July 6th. And that is a teammate of Third Scroggins, who was part of the board meltdown this weekend. But from what we understand, Jacoby Ward is, I don't even think Miami's in the running so much for him. LSU is a threat to Auburn here, but had a pick in for Auburn for a little while. Still feel pretty good about that. Going to check on some things, but I think everything's looking pretty good for Auburn with Jacoby Ward. And then you have Blake Woodby. I think we should probably be on alert for right now.
Yeah, I think he's got a top 3 that's coming. And then there'll probably be a tentative, date that will be released after that, as far as sometime in July that he'll be making his announcement for his commitment, wherever that's going to be next. For those that don't remember, Blake Woodby was committed to Ohio State and decommitted prior to the month of June. Auburn capitalized, got him on campus very, very quickly, and also got his teammate committed. So I think we all feel relatively good about that one, but we'll just see. Auburn fans, and I get it completely, you need to see a couple of these go down to feel good again, feel a little bit more balanced, because I will be honest, I felt very good about Third Scroggins about a week ago, and then things changed very quickly. So that is how it works in recruiting. Things do and will change. And so needing to see that one, to see a couple of these across the finish line to kind of get that balance back and regain confidence that the staff has the ability to close. And then let's not forget about Anquan Fegans that's set to announce the 29th of July, as well as Michael Garrett. So those are 2 others to pay attention to. And for those that are members of the corner, I put up a commitment date thread so that you guys can kind of track that. And I'll make sure that I updated and put Hollis Davidson's new date in there so that you guys kind of have all that pinned in one area.
Awesome. I think I'll take a look at that as well. Also, some might say excellent about how they felt about Auburn's chances with Third Scroggins if you read the RPM rundown. But that's how it goes right now. It's flipping like that, and boy, is it hard to predict. But anyway, go ahead, Zach. Who we got?
10-28. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Anyway, go ahead, Zach. Who we got? 10-28. You're live. Who we talking to?
Zach, you sound so official.
Yes, sir. This is AA Ron from Fort Payne.
Oh,
Second time
AA
caller.
Ron. What's going on, AA Ron?
Nothing much. I just have some 2 questions for y'all guys. War Eagle, by the way, hated to see the news going down this week like it did. Man, it was pretty rough. The corner's been brutal this week.
Well, it was bound to happen. There was a lot of good news that preceded it, and it's an up and down game. So, listen, you gear up for it. It's going to happen again at some point, but it'll go back up too. It's a roller coaster.
Yes, sir, man. I was hoping we got third Scroggins in our class. I thought that was going to help us with Jacoby Ward, but I still like Jacoby Ward, man. I watched that kid's film the other day. He can really block.
He's good.
Very good in the run game. Yeah. And I will say this on third Scroggins. I believe a kid from South Georgia signs with Miami over Auburn if Auburn really wants that kid when I see it. So stand by on that one to see if that doesn't change by the time we get to signing day.
I don't disagree.
Yes, sir. Well, guys, I won't hold y'all long, but I just got 2 questions tonight. My first question, since third Scroggins went elsewhere, to keep it on that subject, who do you think is some recruits we can watch on the edge rushing board? And is CJ May on July the 13th one to really keep an eye on, since both of his cousins are committed to Auburn right now? And my second question is going to be, who is some prospects on the wide receiver board we can really keep an eye on? Because I'm really curious about the wide receiver board right now.
All right. Starting with edge. So this Jared Smith, who we talked about earlier. Jared Smith is a guy that you definitely need to keep an eye on, because I think it's been up and down on how Auburn's recruiting him, but I believe when Auburn was out on the road, the staff was out on the road, and they went and evaluated him in person at Thompson High School, they thought, wow, this guy's legit. He is legit. He's got length. He can move. He's still got a long way to go filling out. And he's got the skill set of an edge, a stand-up edge, a buck, instead of just a 5 technique.
Right.
So he just skyrocketed up Auburn's board. And I think he's, holding that top spot. He's up there. He's one of the top 2 or 3 guys. Zion Grady, I think, was always in there. I think they like Zion Grady. He is now committed to Ohio State. I expect Auburn to continue to recruit him. Of course, he's teammates with current Auburn commit Eric Winters. So that connection is going to be there. We'll see what happens there. I think he's still on the board for sure. I'm missing somebody, Alan. Who am I missing on the edge?
So you've mentioned
Jared Smith and Zion Grady.
Jared Smith, Zion Grady. You obviously also had third Scroggins is committed elsewhere.
Right.
And then I think we've talked about J.J. Falk potentially growing into an edge. That's
Sure.
one that's presently committed to Auburn. And in addition to that, the young man that's committed to Georgia now that was at SC. That was
Gibson.
Yeah, Isaiah Gibson. And that's probably your board right now as far as what Auburn's looking at. Now, there could be another name that gets added. This is the time of year that, well, I guess not necessarily now. When we get into fall, you're going to see some guys emerge that are potentially sleepers or that have really breakout senior years that may become a target. I don't think Auburn's going to have to stretch this year. I think they feel very comfortable about where they sit with several guys on the board. Now, obviously, the biggest one is the young man, Jared Smith from Thompson. I mean, I think that's the one that all the eyes are on right now, and we'll kind of see where we go from there. And again, like I said, don't think that just because third Scroggins is committed to Miami right now that Auburn is off this kid or out of that recruitment. I think that is subject to change. I don't have anything right now that says Auburn's really charging there, but I feel like I've watched this movie several times before, and so typically you give the kid some breathing space, and then Auburn will make a determination if they really want to go after him. And maybe the numbers also change there too. Maybe they decide they want to take a transfer buck as opposed to 2 kids from high school. So that is always a variable in any part of a recruitment.
Sure. And you never know how, they got young guys right now who play buck Jamonte Waller, Joe Phillips. Morris Williams is a little bit of both. He plays 5 technique and buck. But how do those guys, I mean, what do they do during the season that makes you go, do we need 3 edges? Do we need 2? You know, that's still at play too. I will say Xavion Hardy is a guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That now if you look at Jeffrey's hot boards on Auburn Live, he's got Xavion Hardy on the defensive line, and I agree with that. But I do think he's getting a look at Buck for Auburn.
Okay.
6'5", 260 is what he's listed. Seen him in person. He does have a body that could translate to playing Buck. Maybe he's somebody that they look at there. So keep him in mind. He's a JUCO transfer from East Mississippi Community College. And then receiver was Aaron's other question, Ron. Caleb Cunningham's your top dog, I think. I don't think that's changing for any reason. Obviously, Derek Smith, who's committed to Alabama. And I think Alabama views him as maybe receiver, but mostly DB. But Auburn says receiver all the way. You're a receiver. And does that play a factor? I think it probably does down the road at some point. I think it does. He's going to have to pick a position. Which one does he like the best? If he decides he likes offense, I think there's already a lot of familiarity at Auburn and a lot of connection there. So that's one we're watching for sure. Auburn continues to recruit him. You've got there's one more receiver.
Did you mention Sam Turner yet?
Yeah, you got a couple new offers out there. Sam Turner is a new offer. And then you've got Jerome Miles, who was formerly committed to Ole Miss.
Correct. And that young man's stock has absolutely skyrocketed. I think you're going to have to get a premier quarterback in the class to get on his radar, but he's a kid that's open. I think he is really kind of restarting his recruitment somewhat. And so he may be somebody that you could potentially make a move with. We don't have any information right now that says Auburn has done that. But I think he's a guy that down the line, if you add a Juju Lewis to the class, okay, maybe you can get in the game with that young man and it gets his attention somewhat. So that is one I'm definitely going to pay attention to, contingent on how the quarterback situation shakes itself out.
Absolutely. I think the whole receiver position is contingent on that.
Yeah.
Which is why we all considered quarterback to be Auburn's greatest concern right now with recruiting.
Wholeheartedly, man, because it drives everything. You think about this time last year, having Walker in the class and how he was able to kind of go out and pitch himself to other receivers. I mean, without Walker, there's no Perry Thompson, right? Like, I don't think you stand a chance in hell of being in on that kid if you don't have a 4-star blue chip quarterback in your class that's saying, hey, we can be the future together. The receivers want to know who's going to be getting on the ball, period. That is a huge factor for them, is their ability to produce. And when you play a premium position like wide receiver, you want to know that somebody's going to be also at a premium position that's a big-time signal caller.
Right, for sure.
4947. You're live. Who are we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, guys. Hey, it's Wardank here. I got a question that I hope is not, like, too vague, but so y'all are always with the always interviewing the talent stuff, and I just want to know, like, man, when y'all are interviewing these kids and y'all are talking to them about, where they're going to go and all this stuff, like, do y'all ever feel like you're influential on the actual decisions they're making at the end of the day? Like, do y'all feel like y'all represent Auburn in some way, or are y'all strictly professional on it? Just doing your job and that's it, or do you feel like you actually have a hand in the matter? That's really all I want to know. And hope you guys have a great day.
All right, appreciate it, Wardank. Good stuff, man. Look, it's an interesting question, but I think they actually hate us, if we're being honest. I probably would, because sometimes we got to bug them. I mean, it's just the way it is. And that's how I feel about it sometimes. But I don't think they do. I think it usually ends up pretty good. If we're around and we get to just talk to them, we can make it much better on them instead of just sticking a phone in their face and going, here, let's, here's some questions. So, no, we have no influence whatsoever. None. Zero. And sometimes they wish that we weren't there. So that's how that goes.
2246. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
How y'all doing, man?
Doing good. Yeah, experiencing some technical difficulties here, but we're glad to be joined by you tonight, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering, was it my phone or y'all phone or what was going on?
Oh, it was us. We were hearing from Jeffrey. I don't know if he's going to make it with us, so it's going to be us, Edward.
Oh yeah, y'all can handle it, man. Y'all full confidence.
What you got tonight, Edward?
Yeah, man. I just I'm calling. You know, I did recruiting thing. I tell people, man, don't get so high, don't get so low on recruiting right now. It's June, man. I'm looking for the football season. Like shit, whoever signed in D7 will sign at this point. I think we'll finish still strong in that class. I ain't finna jump off the bridge because a 17-year-old decommitted from Auburn. Oh, these kids, man. And right now, be honest, it's all to the highest bidder. I like Auburn, but I went over here to his other school and shit. They NIL deal sound a little better and sound like they need me a little better than Auburn, more than Auburn. So here, I'm following the trade, following the money. So, hey, that's just the game we playing right now. But as I began, to look at this season, I was telling people, like, we like to compare Auburn to Alabama for some reason. And it's not always healthy to do that. When we lost to New Mexico State, I heard a lot of Auburn fans. First thing they holler, was Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year. Okay, I give you that. He did. But see, if you're going to make that comparison, you got to stay with it. You can't flip-flop on how you see things. You say, well, Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year, 2007. He surely did. But he signed a hell of a recruiting class. And guess what? He went 12-2 in 2008. He had a mixture of some experienced guys that wasn't the Chinese guys, but he put some freshmen like Mark Ingram and Julio Jones on the field. And that helped him take him over the top.
True.
My thing is with Auburn, the more and more I look at it, every Auburn quarterback I can remember, from Patrick Nix, Daniel Craig, Nathan Campbell, Cam Newton, Nick Marshall, Bo Nix. I haven't seen these quarterbacks go win me a football game. And my thing is, we starting a 4th-year starting quarterback that they played in all the venues in college football.
Right.
We starting a guy that's playing 4 years, but nobody believes that he gives us no kind of advantage in a big game. I'm sorry, but it's time for Peyton Thorne to win a football game. And I believe he can do it. Because if not, then what am I gaining by not playing one of my younger guys? And a lot of people high on the 2025 team, I'm not. Because the way that this team is structured, you won't have a lot of senior leadership on that team next year. Because you don't have a lot of juniors on the roster now.
Fair.
So you basically, next year, you have a bunch of, Kendrick Fox will be a junior. You have a bunch of sophomores and a bunch of freshmen, or either a bunch of redshirt freshmen and a bunch of freshmen. So that's not a recipe for success, if you ask me. A team with a lot of experience. And that's why I think when you really look at it, okay, you got one of the best backfields in there. You got a quarterback that played in some big games, big-time games. Okay, I got a solid linebacker core. I got a solid secondary, but they're young. Okay, I'd improve my defensive line. I'd improve my wide receiver play. I got solid tight end. I got a solid offensive line. I got two of the best kickers in the country. Got one of the best punters in the country. And I think this special team is a part of the game that nobody even really talks about. Because I think you got two of the best specialists in college football, in your punter and either kicker that you roll out on the field. Pinkston didn't miss a field goal last year.
Yep.
So you telling me that a team that I can play defense, I got a quarterback that played in some big games, experience. I got a good punter. That's a part of the game that don't get talked about a lot. I got a punter that can put me in good field position. Well, he did it time and time and time again last year, but we couldn't get off the field on third down. I just want to hear y'all guys' thoughts right quick. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, go ahead,
I don't
Cole.
see why this team, it's hard to find. When you look at this team, it's just really hard to find just a real, true weakness now. They might not be strong as some other teams, but I don't think there is just that much glaring weak spot as what we have had on some teams in the past. And like I say, you got a guy who has started this would be a fourth year starting major college football. You done played at Penn State. You done played at Michigan. You done played at Ohio State. Oh, shit, man, it's time for you to go win me a football game. And if he's not going to give me a big enough advantage to go win me a football game, then I might well to roll one of my young boys. Because I think that's the only reason why I could possibly be playing a guy that is spirit. I feel like he can go get me a win in some places where some of the other young guys may crack under pressure. That's just my thoughts about it.
Edward, I think that's
win
fair.
the game. If the new car smell is eventually going to wear off, folks, and you can recruit, ask Jimbo Fisher, call him. He unemployed. He got time to talk to you. Call him. Just because you recruit at a high level, that doesn't guarantee success. You still got to win. That man signed the number one class ever at the time, and his ass was unemployed the next year. So, for me, it's about the results on the field. Because go out with an average season, you're right, your 26 class not going to look nothing like your 25 class. Because a lot of these kids that come from winning programs in high school, they want to win in college. A lot of these guys who come from teams that haven't won in high school, they don't want to lose in college. They don't lost their whole high school career. So our best thing for recruiting is to win some football games. 7-5 with a fourth-year starting quarterback. Oh shit, man! You could have played one of the young guys and got ready for next year. And I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna let y'all talk.
All right, Edward. That's you know what you brought a question in my mind. Go ahead, Alan, say what you were going to say. But I have a counter question that came to my mind while he was talking.
Sure.
It's interesting.
No, I think Edward's justified in kind of making that statement because if you're looking for similarities in Saban's second year and Auburn's second year underneath Hugh Freeze this year, John Parker Wilson was a quarterback that was kind of embattled there at Alabama. Peyton Thorne, obviously here at Auburn now, has played to some mixed results. He has a really great 2021 year, probably a less, not as good of a year in 2022. And then last year was just really not, I think, a fair representation of his skill set. I think there were a lot of things from an operations standpoint that didn't necessarily allow him to play probably up to his capability. But can he be in that kind of a role as a John Parker Wilson? I honestly think he can, but are the pieces around him where they need to be? You mentioned Julio Jones. Well, we all think Cam Coleman is going to be phenomenal, right? But can he have the kind of year that Julio Jones had out the gate as a freshman? That's what you don't know. Jarquez Hunter, can he be a 1,000-yard back, similar to what you had that year in Alabama's backfield? You just don't know. You need to see it go down. Can I say yes? Are there some similarities to that? Absolutely. I think the scariest thing for me right now, when you're trying to draw comparisons, is that I don't see a real impact player. I see a lot of good players on the defensive line, but at that premium of a position, and in my opinion, interior defensive line has almost become more important than outside edge pass rushing, just because of the way they've sped the game up some, the quick game element to things, how quickly they get the ball out of the quarterback's hand. So having that edge rusher that can pin back and get 10 sacks a season, you just don't see it as much right now. But the interior pressure has kind of replaced that. So can Auburn generate enough interior pressure with some of the defensive players they've picked up from the portal and also hold up against the run a little bit better and fit gaps? That's what gives me major pause there. I believe Hugh Freeze is going to score points. I just do. He's done it everywhere he's been. I see no reason why, if Cam Coleman is what we think he can be, if the players from the transfer portal that you brought in can give you what they provided, at their last stop. I mean, you brought in a young man from Penn State that was able to put, was catching for over 700 yards last year. We didn't have a receiver sniff that. I mean, I think our leading wide receiver was at around 420 yards or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Rivaldo Fairweather was our actual leading receiver from a yardage standpoint. So it just, it's guys are going to have to take that leap forward. And I think there's some seeing to believing in that. And that's why you have people kind of saying, hey, 7-5, 8-4, because I believe that Alabama team was probably predicted relatively similarly. I don't think anybody was saying, yeah, hey, Alabama's going to go 11-1 or, whatever they ended up being that season. I think they were 11-0 through the regular season, correct, Zach? And then they lost in the SEC championship game. Yeah, so they
lost against Tebow in that loaded Florida team in the SEC title game.
Right, and then turned around and lost again to Utah, I believe, or somebody in their bowl game. I can't remember exactly who it was. But, that's a team that caught momentum. And I think the way the schedule breaks for Auburn, you have a chance to get real momentum. If you start off 4-0 and Oklahoma comes in here coming off a very emotional game for them against Tennessee with Josh Heupel going back to Oklahoma, he's going to be up for that game. So is Oklahoma prepared to make that journey into Jordan-Hare? I don't know. And if Auburn gets that one, what does that do for their momentum? You know what I mean? Because if you start off 5-0 and those kids are believing, as Pat Dye would say, man, that ball will take funny bounces during the course of a season. You know what I mean? Strange things will happen. Players will get injured. Opponents that you right now think are going to be fantastic, look, I have a very high opinion of Missouri and what Eli Drinkowitz is doing. But what happens if they take a step back? And now you're looking at that game very differently from how we're perceiving it right now. So there's an opportunity for Auburn to absolutely do some damage, but you got to see it be done. For the last 4 years, Auburn has been 6 or less, right? That is what they have achieved in the regular season. So Auburn fans need to see proof of it. And I hear you, Edward, on if Peyton Thorne gets me 7-5, I should have gone with one of the young guys. Maybe one of the young guys isn't ready to get you to 7-5. And if you're Hugh Freeze, in my opinion, that's the bare minimum you need to get to keep that positive momentum so you can continue to accrue talent. I think that is a have to get to. And so I'm going to play the guy I think that's going to give me the absolute best chance to win and continue to build my roster the way I want it. But Cole, Zach, I'll turn it over to you.
No, I think he makes some great points. And I think I would be a hypocrite if I didn't agree with him that there is a good veteran presence on this team. I think my number one ranking, if you followed my position unit ranking, I like the offensive line number one right now.
Yeah.
And I do that for the upcoming season, for the 2024 season, not for beyond. The ranking is strictly for the 2024 season and how that unit will fare in the 2024 season. I think it's strong at the top. I think you have a 2 deep almost, pretty much locked in. And I think you got a 3 deep of freshmen and other guys that's the formula. How do you get every room to that point? Right now, I don't think every room is at that point. I think your secondary is far from it. Okay. Linebacker, you're still trying to figure out things there. You got a lot of young talent, but what are they? We don't know yet. I like the defensive ends and edges. I like the way that's set up. There's a couple of position groups that I like the way they're set up. Quarterback I had ranked towards the end. We don't know what Walker White is yet. We think he's going to be good. If Hank, and I think Hank Brown's going to be fine. Don't get me wrong. But if he were the man, he'd be the man. He had an opportunity to win the job, I think. I don't think that they went into spring and said, yeah, it's Thorne, so, chill out.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You still have fall camp to go. So we're still to be decided on that. But it looks like Thorne's way out in front here. And the question that came to me while Edward was saying what he was saying is it possible? Because I thought he made a good point with the structure of the team for 2025. A lot of people are pointing towards 25. Oh, that's when you'll have most everybody in there. I do think experience and having veterans is very important now, especially as you're now going to get into the playoff deal.
Yes.
I mean, look at March Madness. Who are the teams that usually come out in those? It's hard to predict. You got to go and find the teams that have some veterans because they're going to make it pretty much. That's how it's been going. I think football is going to be the same way. That's just playoffs. That's how playoffs work. I'm excited for that, by the way. Big proponent of the playoff. But, I think that I'm wondering, did maybe they make an executive decision at some point and go, we looked at other quarterbacks. We attempted to maybe bring in another quarterback for this season. There are other guys out there that we think maybe could take this team further this year. But we stay with Peyton Thorne for a lot of what Edward said. He's been there and done that. He's just went through the worst season he's ever had for sure.
Yep.
And they think he's going to be better than that. They think he's got a lot to prove based off of that last season and what he's done before when he had talent around him, which he has much better talent around him now. So the structure of this team is interesting. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's there yet to go on a big run. But as you said, the ball can bounce some ways. I like the 2025 structure better. And I'm thinking they kept Thorne, save that money, go on, get you one for that season. I could see it happening. Is it Julian Lewis? Is it a guy like KJ Lacey? Or do they go to the portal and get somebody and make a big move there? I think you're getting better where you can actually go to the portal and get some guys you really want instead of filling holes so much. That's why I like the structure of 2025 better.
I agree. And I do think they're going to leverage the portal because you're right, Cole. You have to have some experience at some of these positions. There's no way that you can not leverage the portal. I just don't think we're going to have to leverage it as much. You see Georgia go and get 5, 7, 8 players from the portal, but that's it for them, right? I think Auburn is upwards of 16 now. Now, you still signed more high school kids in this past year's class, so it's not nearly as tilted as that first year that Hugh Freeze was here where you were truly plugging holes. Right. But I think they want to consistently see that number go down, and you find that delicate balance where you're striking it with you bringing up young kids mixed with vets. And so there's going to be some spots there. And where Cole and I were estimating between 25 to 30 guys making it possible in this class, I think that's still there. Yeah. I probably lean more towards the 25 now than I do the 30, given some of my recent conversations, but still 25 high school kids, that's a ton, man. That is a chunk. As far as what you're adding to your roster, but I think they're going to get some kids who are going to be ready to play sooner rather than later. And so maybe it is a little bit of a developmental year, but Cole, you're right, man. Those freshman receivers, if they take a step forward next year, you've got some really good young pieces on offensive line. I mean, I am very encouraged by TJ Johnson. Obviously, I love the center. Does Jeremiah Wright come back for one more year? Does he turn pro? So you've got some flexibility there where you've got some guys that may be ready to take a step forward. And then defensive line, like you said, Keldrick Falk, you got your young edges. You just brought in a very young edge / buck outside linebacker from Arkansas State who physically looks like he's got all the intangibles, right? Like everything that you're looking for physically, he's extremely well put together. We'll see what he is when we get him in fall camp. But just on the hoof, he's an impressive-looking kid.
Right.
And then in the secondary, a lot of these guys beyond Keontae Scott are young, man. They are super young. So, like you said, Cole, next year it's going to look a lot more layered in the back end, and you're going to feel a lot better about that situation than you do right now.
Definitely.
Before we get to the next caller, if you had a bad week on the corner last week, then if you actually want to make a difference, Join On to Victory Collective for as little as $17 a month. You can support Auburn athletics and enjoy awesome perks like monthly giveaways, VIP events, behind the scenes content, and cash back on your favorite brands. Plus, you'll get exclusive savings on to Victory gear and merchandise. Head over to ontovictory.co. That's .co, not .com, and join today to support all the Auburn athletes and get in these amazing benefits. But we got 3 more callers, guys.
Jeffrey's sitting at home like a proud daddy right now. I guarantee you.
Hopefully I didn't mess that too bad. You know,
Listen,
I got to try to bring the energy, man. Jay Lee reads these ads like I don't know, man. It's special. But 0506, you're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is old Hogbone.
Oh, Hogbone. How you doing, man?
Yeah, man. Well, we hanging in there. You know, we having a little tough go right now, but man, we got to keep up with the Tigers. That's dear and dear to my heart. I wanted to ask y'all something, and I don't know. I know y'all never had any guests on the show, but y'all ought to get old Brett Whiteside on there one time. Maybe we could everybody call in and ask him a few questions. But the questions that I have tonight are related to the giving, and kind of on to victory.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like we're playing with a whole bunch of different rules when we're out there trying to get a kid. Some places, apparently some states are giving tax donations or whatever. They're able to take it off on their taxes. Can they do that on the federal, or is that just the state? They're allowing it in their state. Is one question I have.
Sure.
Because that would relieve some of the donor fatigue, that states that don't allow that could have. And the other thing is, what can we do to encourage this, to actually bring in a little NIL into this thing to help offset, like, if it's, I don't know what the number is for Juju, but say it's $1.5 million and we can do $1 million comfortably. Maybe we could, find other incentives to reach where, they won't. I'm just using that for an example.
Sure.
Those are some things that I'm really confused a little bit about. Are we playing with a whole bunch of different fruit out there? We're not apples to apples and oranges to oranges, it seems like at times. But I'm just a little confused as to what we're up against that way. And maybe you guys could talk about it a little bit. I'm going to get off here and let y'all have it.
Sure.
All right. Well, Hogbone, I know you're a member of the corner, and you've probably seen me put on there before that quarterback recruitments are just a whirlwind, man. I don't know today's quarterback recruitments, and I'm talking about the quarterbacks that are high caliber, obviously like Julian Lewis, because how do I word this? It's not just NIL, I don't think. If you're talking about incentives and all that, boy, they pull out the stops. And it's all of this stuff that goes way over my head. And it's like 1 second, the offer's good. And then the next minute, somebody else got a better offer. They've upped it, maybe not monetarily, but they've upped it somehow.
Sure.
Because there's all kinds of factors that play for a quarterback. And, it's just impossible to predict. And that's one of the reasons, number one, I've never had a comfortable, answer with Juju Lewis in regards to Auburn. I've never just been able to come out and say, yes, I think Auburn lands this guy. Yes, I think it's trending the right way. I can't just say that. There's always got to be a tail on it. Yeah, Auburn's trending the right way, but man, tomorrow could be totally different. Today feels good. Tomorrow, I have no idea what that holds for this. It is literally that kind of roller coaster ride that you're on when you're on a quarterback recruitment, especially a 5-star quarterback like Julian Lewis.
Yep.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
I think it definitely answers the quarterback part, Cole. As it pertains to donation and whether or not that's, tax deductible, it all depends on how your collective is set up, whether or not it's an LLC, whether it's a nonprofit. I think the encouraging part about probably the direction we're going is if the house case settlement takes, because it still hasn't necessarily been accepted yet by the judge. Both parties have agreed to it, but the judge still has to sign off on that deal. And to the best of my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. But if it does, and NIL is able to move in-house, you would technically probably start donating to like Tigers Unlimited or something of that nature, which is 100% tax deductible. So the future there is to be determined as far as how that shakes out. And as far as the state laws are concerned with who's getting tax breaks, look, there are no laws anymore, man. Once or guidelines, once the Tennessee and State of Virginia versus the NCAA case basically struck down all NIL guidelines and rules. I had a friend that's in the NIL game, and I asked him, like, how do you guys operate? He said, one court injunction at a time, man. That's realistically how we operate, and that's kind of where we are right now. But there are certain states that are allowing guys to be able to negotiate while kids are still in high school and sign deals and profit financially from their name, image, and likeness. California being one of those. Missouri has some very progressive state laws that allow you to go ahead and sign an NIL contract if you're an in-state player and go ahead and start receiving player compensation. So there are states that give certain advantages. Alabama is not one of those that's necessarily probably cultivated an NIL state law that's been very friendly to this point. But I think all of this is subject to change anyway. This whole situation that we're in right now, we're going to look back at it in 2 years from now, I promise you, and think, how in the hell did this thing actually operate? Because there are no guidelines, there are no rules, there is no structure. Kids can take money 1 second when they enter the transfer portal, stay someplace for 4 months, and transfer someplace else, right? So there is no honoring a contract, honoring a deal, and it's not just on their end. The collective is not bound to uphold their end of a deal either, and it's on both lanes here. And you got some shady players in their NIL game that are acting as de facto street agents. So the whole situation, there just needs to be some kind of formality to it, some ability to have structure. And if you get that put in place, and I don't know exactly how you do that just yet, there are people that are far smarter than me. Maybe it's the house case gets codified and you're able to kind of have an antitrust exception for the NCAA. Maybe that's how you bring structure. Maybe it's some other way. But something's going to have to give, right? Like the dam is going to break at some point. And I think we're at that point where it's time for change. Everybody knows it. Everybody understands that. And we're at a breaking point. Like it just can't continue on the way that it is. So we'll see. But as far as tax deductions, again, it's how your collective is set up and then what your state laws are.
And while we're on that subject real quick, Zach, before we go to the next caller, let's talk about just real quick about the Julian Lewis recruitment.
Okay.
I think that's what everybody tunes in for these days, if we're being honest.
100% it is.
There's somebody sitting there and they're going, all right, this is good stuff. Yeah, Auburn might be good next year. Okay, what about Juju? Where are y'all at on this? Can you please talk about it?
Refresh.
Good gracious. So it's probably half the people watching. But let's talk about it. I real quick, I want to touch on it, and we'll move on. I don't want to spend too long on it, but I don't know about you, Alan. Zach, maybe, if you have your ear to the ground on this as well. Positive news?
Yes.
On Julian Lewis lately? Maybe more positive than it has been in the past. I don't know. Is it month? 2 weeks? Last? Yeah.
I would say it feels more positive, right?
It does. It feels more positive. I don't know what that means exactly. What does that mean? Who I talk to feels more positive. Bottom line. That's the best way I know to describe that. I don't know if that means something has shifted. I don't know if one of these four schools has fallen out. We feel like Indiana's probably on the outside looking in, with Colorado, USC, and Auburn being the top three. Does this mean that one of USC or Colorado has fallen out of it some? I don't know. I just have gotten a much, much more positive vibe about Julian Lewis in regards to Auburn here lately. And trying to figure out how I want to read that. But as we just pointed out, this is a roller coaster. You know, I wanted to say that and put that disclaimer out there first. Today, Sunday, June 30th, that's what we hear. Tomorrow, only God knows.
No, I'm with you, Cole. It's subject to change every minute, every hour, every other day, and then sometimes it even changes source to source, right? Like when you're doing a quarterback recruitment, and you talked about this, right? There are so many different elements to it, and so as you talk to people that have a side of the recruitment, your information will change slightly. And so what you and Jeffrey do that I really appreciate, and what I've tried to do, is cast a wide net. Like, you're not just talking to one person, you're talking to multiple people in this recruitment, trying to get a feel for the direction of things. You can't just have one isolated source, and it can't just all be on the Auburn side. You need to have people,
sure,
you know what I mean, that are in multiple different places on this one. So yes, definitely it feels like, okay, for the first time in a while, maybe things have swung back to a more positive Auburn buzz. But again, stand by. I think the most positive thing, though, is Julian is a major domino, right? For Auburn, for SC, for Colorado. That's going to drive everything that they're going to do moving forward, and it really is going to affect other teams. Think about Texas A&M, because if Juju Lewis were to flip to either Colorado or Auburn, what are they going to do? I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to go turn around to Houston Longstreet and offer him a massive deal. Yeah. Now, Texas A&M potentially is in the quarterback market. You still have Ole Miss and Florida that don't have quarterbacks just yet. Are they going to, you know what I mean, maybe Florida has a better year than expected. Are they going to pay up on somebody? So there are a lot of dominoes yet to go. But as of today, I'm with you, Cole. It does feel, and I'm going to say the word feel on this one. I don't know, but it feels more positive.
And I will say this too, and then we'll go on to the next caller. But obviously, Big Cat Weekend at the end of July. If you're worried about the recruiting momentum right now, and we talked about this at length on our recruiting show, that we understand the worry. I mean, is the sky falling? No, we all agree with that. But you know, take it as it comes. Sometimes there's weeks that are not as good as others. And this past week, there was some headlines that didn't work out for Auburn. There's going to be some that work out here soon. It's going to keep going back and forth. But now the push is to Big Cat, as you said, Alan, on one of our shows. I can't remember which one exactly. The push is to get the right guys at Big Cat Weekend.
Yes.
That is the best way to cap off everything this summer that you did, official visit-wise. You ended on a high note going into the season, because recruiting is different when it gets into the season. You can't have guys on campus all the time. It's just not easy to do that with everything going on. You're trying to win, too. That's part of recruiting, too. You have to win on the field. So, having said that, it probably wouldn't be smart for us to ever put Julian Lewis on the Big Cat Weekend visit list.
No.
Because it can change daily. But I think he might be there.
I tell you, when we put Julian Lewis on the Big Cat visitor list, it's the day before, and then you cross your fingers that it holds to the day of. You know what I mean?
Good gracious. Yes, that's exactly right.
6304. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's up, fellas? This is Dustin from Auburn. How y'all doing?
All right, Dustin. Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I've called before. I was Dustin from Dothan then, but I recently moved up here, and I'm Monday 87 on the board.
Hey, okay. Definitely see you pop up a lot.
Go ahead, man.
What you got for us?
Just had a couple for y'all. I ain't been listening tonight because I'm at work, so y'all may have already touched on this some. I just wanted to see if I could get some in. hopefully some positivity. Hopefully the calls have not been positive versus all that negativity on the board this past week. I was just going to ask, I had a question about 2 players and then a question about 2 positions. One player, Jared Smith, just wondering, like, what's the upside with him? You know, we kind of got in on him later, it seems like. So I know he's a 5-star on certain boards. So I'm just wondering, like, what's his upside? How's he looking if he ends up being the edge that we get? And what took us so long? Like, what were they not seeing that made them wait this long to really push for him?
That's a fair question.
And then KJ Lacey on him, how does he fit in Hugh's system? And like, what like I know Alan keeps saying that, you know, he thinks he's going to end up at Auburn and stuff. But how does it affect him seeing, you know, how we've been all in on Juju? We're all in on Juju. How does he not feel like a second choice? Like, what makes him, why would he want to come here after it's so publicly been Juju, and then if we don't get Juju, it's you?
Okay. All right, Dustin, appreciate you,
And
man.
then
You got another one?
sorry, man.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say on the positions, like with wide receiver, like, what's the outlook on that? Like, is there anybody, like, you know, I know some of our top guys, I know it's still a long time till signing day, but right now, not looking great. The guys that we're looking, is there anybody out there that would be, you guys would consider like an impact guy? Or is it everybody that we would probably end up taking this year be like a depth or development piece?
Gotcha. All right, Dustin. Was that all your questions?
Yeah, man, that's it.
All right, we'll go down the list here. I wrote them down as you were talking. Start with Jared Smith. I thought this was a great question, Dustin. Basically, what took so long for Auburn to get in on Jared Smith, Alan? What do you think? Well, I mean, not so long. I think Auburn's been recruiting him.
Sure.
I don't think they're brand new to this. They've been recruiting him.
No, I think this staff is huge about being able to lay their eyes on a prospect, like actually be able to see them live and in action. And he transferred schools mid-year. They didn't necessarily get a chance to eval him, I think, the way they wanted to. And so they kind of slow played him somewhat. And not necessarily slow played him, just weren't necessarily just all in there. It is like they were with some of the other targets. And I think once they got an opportunity, you talked about it, but when they were doing kind of their spring evaluations and they went through Thompson, saw the young man and probably at practice, but definitely in person, and were able to take a look at his length, his size, the ability for his frame to fill out. And like you said, I think once they realized that he had the ability to play buck and potentially play 5-tech, his value went up because it's 2 spots, right? Where he probably starts at buck and then grows into a 5-tech that can hold up against doubles and do some different things for you, Brad. It brings some added edge pressure. Someone similar to, you know, he's not going to be as big as Keldrick when he comes in, but he has the opportunity to grow into that kind of size, right? Where he could play at 270 plus and be on this.
That's not a bad comparison. They're similar. They got some similarities.
Jared's probably not carrying as much weight as Keldrick at the same stage, right? You know, so it's a little bit different. But from a overall frame standpoint, he shows that kind of ability. So I think that became a very attractive part, especially when you're thinking about trying to accumulate enough impact players and trying to get it with guys. You know, you don't want to overload one class or another. So if you have somebody that brings versatility and the ability to play 2 spots, it just increases your value to the people that are going to be coaching that position. And that person is Josh Aldridge, who just so happens to coach both sets of ends, right? He coaches the 5-tech. He also coaches the Bucks. So for him, that probably adds a bonus to his room. But that's my read on the situation, is just getting a chance to evaluate him in person. Wanted to be able to do that. I think that's huge for the staff, and it's kind of materialized from there.
That's a great point. When he did transfer midseason, I forget about that. He was at Spain Park, transferred to Thompson during the season. One of the rare ones that have been able to do that and then play.
Right.
But you know, we've talked about that, but that's a good point. It is hard to, and I don't know if that's like red flag when a guy transfers schools in high school, but I think it at least makes you go, what happened? Well, why did you do that?
Exactly. And ask the question, right?
Yeah. I don't think I think it's very fair to ask the question and when that happens. And it may not be, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not anything that would be bad, but you at least ask the question. You vet it.
Yes, very much so. And you vet it with people that you trust, and those answers aren't always immediate, right? Sometimes you need to be able to talk to the high school coach. You need to be able to talk to the prospect themselves, their family, multiple other people. So it's a little bit more layered than I think certain people give it credit for.
Sure. With KJ Lacey, which was Dustin's second question about his fit, he wants to know, first of all, does he fit with Auburn's offense, Hugh Freeze's offense? I think the answer to that is yes. I think he's a very good RPO operator, and Hugh Freeze wants to do RPOs. So, yeah, I think he fits for that reason. And there's other reasons, but that's the big one to me. Why would he choose Auburn? The question is fair, and a lot of fans, I've said this before, I hadn't said it in a while. I think it's been since last year. Fans and recruits do not think the same.
No, they do not.
No, they don't. A lot of recruits, and I give them credit, and their parents, because I really do think you should approach it this way. Some recruits get their heart involved in it, and they go, oh, gosh, I love that school, but my fit's better over there. And their brain's telling them, this is a better business decision.
Right.
And that's what it is now, more than it's ever been before. And it's always been a business. Just because we have NIL and we have money and all this doesn't mean it's it's become more of a business than it's always been a business.
Right.
These kids know that going in. Their parents know that going in. And they're looking at every single thing. And they know they can't get their feelings hurt about where they might be placed on someone's board. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't matter if you have a spot somewhere. And I think KJ Lacey would have a spot, 100%. So if he's thinking about it from a business standpoint, he's probably looking at Texas and going, man, how long is Arch Manning going to be here?
That's my number one point.
What's Auburn's situation? Oh, I was second on their board? Well, I could be the starter over there. Who cares?
Absolutely. And then you're looking at it, like you said, how quickly can I get on the field, right? How quickly can I get on the field? What do they have around me? What's the system? Does it translate to me being able to grow my career and go on to earn in the NFL? And I think those are all pluses. And then you factor in the proximity for home. And I do think that plays a factor for him with his dad being able to come up and see him play whenever he wants, right? By comparison, Zach, what is it? 3.5 hours from Mobile to Auburn? Maybe 3. By comparison to driving all the way to Austin or flying out there. So it's a little bit of a different situation for KJ. But I think the biggest thing is, and you talked about it, Cole, is the elephant in the room for that situation is Arch Manning. Because I think he's going to be entrenched there as the starter for the next 2 years, period. I think with the Auburn situation, it's significantly more fluid, and it's going to be far more open than Texas's quarterback battle.
And I don't know if KJ and his family really do look at it that way. It's just me trying to assess the situation. You would think that you look at that and go, well, I mean, he's pretty much – is there a bigger name out there than Arch Manning? Do I go in here and just beat the guy out on the first day? You know what I mean? I'm just putting pieces together here. I don't know for sure what they think about it. I would say this to any quarterback trying to find a home. I would tell you, you just don't know what's going to happen. I think these days, if you are the constant somewhere, meaning you're the guy that hangs around, you're going to find the field eventually because there's going to be flipping and turning all around you. Just be the constant somewhere. I think that's your best bet.
And find a fit. Don't quarterback specifically find a fit for your skill set. Do not pick a system that does not work for you find one that it was going to A, help you develop for the NFL, and 2, is one that you absolutely fit in. Do not go square peg round hole with quarterback, because only one quarterback plays at a time, right? This isn't like wide receiver. This isn't running back. You're not going to play multiple. It's one guy.
Right.
So be very logical about the system that you put yourself in, what that coach's quarterback development is like, and does that system prepare you for the NFL? Right. Because your first paycheck in the league is going to be twice what you're ever going to make in NIL. I promise you that.
Sure.
So we got one last caller here. 5202. You're live. Who are we talking to? Where are you calling from?
One last caller here. 5202. Yep. You're live. Who are we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Woo! Turn that feedback down, big dog.
Oh, you got it good for it. All right, we got you.
This is Darren from Enterprise via Niceville.
Oh,
hey, I like it. Our first Niceville call of the night. Darren, how you doing, man?
I think Darren, was he our last caller last time?
He was. He closed out the show last week.
Well, close it out for us again, Darren.
Oh, did we lose him?
Darren?
I was in awe of the battlefield and just looking in the energy and taking it all in and thinking, man, I'm weak. I'm weak. I'm such a wimp, and I'm an ex-military guy. And I'm weak. So, Alan, I know you know what I mean.
I do, Darren. I very much do, my man. Take your time, brother.
Yep. What you got for us tonight?
Right, than they were in the past. These guys haven't signed yet, right? I mean, it's still like, okay, I'm committed over here, but it doesn't mean they've signed yet. It's still really an ebb and flow type thing, correct?
Yes, very much so.
And Darren, I think you're cutting out, man, because we're only getting like about a third of what you said.
Yeah, your phone is cutting out on us there, Darren.
I think we completely lost them.
Okay.
That Niceville service wasn't there tonight, huh? It was there for us last show now.
No, but I think that's a great point to end on, though. And the point that I think Darren was making is nothing is said and done at this point, that things will and do change in recruiting. And that just because a kid is committed someplace, and that means even the ones that are committed to Auburn it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to end up there. So ride the wave, guys. Don't get too high or too low. And again, I'm going to say what Jeffrey told me 4 years ago. Nothing sells hope and despair in the same day like recruiting, big dog.
That is true. That is true. Well, listen, we have got commitment dates lined up. We talked about that earlier in the show. We got commitment dates lined up. We got guys that we think could be trending to Auburn. We have predictions in. We got it all at Auburn Live. You know, if you haven't signed up with us, $1. If you're here on YouTube, 2 months for $1. It's 1 month for $1 if you organically find the site, maybe through Twitter. Maybe you just happen upon it one day. But if you're on YouTube with us, you get 2 months for $1. So definitely come try us out. We're going to keep it rocking. We're going to have some stuff to talk about this week. I think the corner's going to be in a better mood.
I hope so.
Hopefully. So. And if they want to be in a better mood, go donate to On to Victory. Like we said earlier, On to Victory Collective, $17 a month to support all things Auburn athletics, monthly giveaways, VIP events, behind-the-scenes content, cash back. Go to ontovictory.co. That's .co, not .com. Join today to support all the Auburn athletes.
That was a hell of a transition, Zach. Look at you.
I like it.
I think Jeffrey's giving us a little golf clap somewhere. Right
I know now. He is somewhere with some Copenhagen in.
He said, "Good job, big dog." That's what he said.
after he smashed the computer for not working all night.
Oh well, now he's dealing with that, so that's gonna be interesting.
Actually,
Anyway.
he said, "That's what I said."
That's what I said. Guys, great show. I think 3-man team. We did it again. We'll get Jeffrey back soon. We appreciate y'all. Kevin from Wilmer kicked it off. We got Don from Beeham, Johnny from Beeham, Aaron from Fort Payne, Wardank, Edward from Selma, Hogbone, Dustin from Auburn, Darren from Niceville. Try us again next week, man. We will get you back for sure. Great show. We had a lot of good topics. We'll continue discussing that on the corner. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about there as the week goes on, commitments, all that good stuff. Definitely come join us there. And, for Alan Head, Zach McKinnell, and myself and Jeffrey Lee, stay out of that left lane.